back to another episode of the Critical Podcast. My name is Jimmy Good. I am your co-host here, and my other co-host, as always, except for when he's on various trips around the world and stuff like that, Mr. Joe Lever. Joe, thank you so much for coming back. I hope you're doing well, pal.
I am doing amazingly.
Oh, wow.
For a Monday.
Well, that's...
But, what up, man?
Not
Good
much.
to be here.
It's been a heck of a weekend here, and we'll get to it first. But I just want to start off by thanking Mr. Jorn Evers for the beautiful picture we have here. Soon, one of these days, I'm gonna get him to make one of Joe and myself or something. I don't know, because we kind of need one now for Joe, because Joe's a staple on the show. Exactly.
You know, I'm waiting on those rippled six-pack abs, the big old pecs and the guns blazing.
I always think, then I go right to the hole at the end when you talk about like your last name Lever as in beaver, and then I think of that picture I want him to draw of you as like a brawny man, like helping build a dam with a beaver, with like you're holding a log or whatever. I don't know. I digress. Anyway, and I also want to
That's fine. I'm down for that.
He likes that. Anyway,
I like brawny.
I want to thank This Is Daleb for making our cool intro-outro song. It's super great. I think it really adds a little pizzazz to it. And let us know what you think about both those things, the picture and the song and all that, down below. So, to those who are new to this, this whole thing, as we are still kind of fledgling podcasters, we basically talk about anything that we love as far as like media goes, movies, video games, the TV shows, all the things that make the world go round, that's what I say. But
the priorities in everyone's life.
Yes, just like they're the bare necessities, one might say. But if I get in a Jungle Book again, it'll be a whole thing. But today's topic for discussion, there's really only one.
Hold on, Jimmy. Just one thing about the Jungle Book. So if you watch it... I'm just kidding.
Okay. I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to go into this.
If you guys listen to our previous podcast, a couple podcasts ago, back in April, I went off on like a 2-hour-long tangent just on the Jungle Book. So
yeah, well,
if you're fans, check that out. But that was my little way of poking fun at Jimmy.
Yeah, that was good. Well, he did like a 40-minute thing, and that was great. And then the next week, I did a little bit too, which was really great. But this week's, there's only one real topic for discussion. That is Captain America Civil War. So basically what Joe and I are going to do is we're going to break it down. We might do a little brief synopsis here in the beginning, and then we're going to go just hard into spoiler territory. And if you're interested in seeing Captain America Civil War and you just haven't yet, go check out my review I did over on our YouTube channel. That is spoiler free. There's, except for like the trailers and stuff, which, they contain stuff in there. But I assume if you're watching that, you've probably seen some of that marketing. Even I was on Media Blackout, and even I saw a few images here and there. But I gotta say, seeing the movie kind of going in almost blind was a real treat. But Joe, would you mind just in like a few sentences kind of breaking down like just kind of the bare bones plot of Civil War?
The bare bones plot. Well, it's kind of political. It's a little different than your standard superhero movie. It's a refreshing change, if you ask me. Spoilers will abound. So basically, the government wants to keep the Avengers in check after the past occurrences of the previous, Avengers. How will you say it? Saving the planet.
Yeah, exactly.
Episodes. After those previous escapades, the government wants to keep them in check. All the countries around the world are on board with it and pressuring the United States to enact some sort of law. Actually, I don't think it's just in the United States. Is it the United Council?
It's the UN, I think, and that's like 117 different countries have tried to sign these like peace accords.
Yeah. So those accords, basically a law, keeping them in check, meaning that only the government can call upon them and tell them when to act, what to do, how to do it, etc. To avoid collateral damage and, the Avengers making decisions that, cause lives or cost lives or, impact countries in the wrong way, etc. I mean, basically, they're trying to eliminate any bad implications of that Avengers actions. So, and this is kind of started up by Captain America and his team. They're trying to catch a terrorist over in Jimmy, help me out.
I think it starts in Vienna, and then they go to like Leipzig. They go go over a lot of different places.
Yeah, were they in a country in Africa to start with when they were chasing that terrorist?
Yes,
I think?
they were.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's why the king is upset, and he kind of starts this big push to get them in check.
Were they? They were not in Wakanda, but there were like 12 diplomats from Wakanda that happened to be in that African country, and that's what had happened. But
yeah, yep, sure. So, and that king of Wakanda is Black Panther's father.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so Black Panther is a prince who becomes king after the king of Wakanda dies in a terrorist attack by the Russian colonel who's seeking revenge and framing Winter Soldier. I'm getting into way too much detail here. I'm basically reiterating the movie.
That's okay.
But so it basically starts a thing. Iron Man, he shows up with the Secretary of State, talking about we need to sign these accords. They need to keep us in check. And Iron Man is kind of looking at this as a good thing because he's had, some guilt-ridden feelings following the previous altercations in the other movies. And this woman approaches him and says, "My son died thanks to you," sort of thing. So he's feeling guilty. He feels that it's a good thing that the Avengers are kept in check. Kind of takes the responsibility off of his shoulders or the team's shoulders. So him and a few others, they join sides, and they're kind of against Captain America, who still feels that the choice is still best left in their hands, not someone else's, the power and everything. So Captain America doesn't want government involvement. He thinks every life is worth saving, etc. He doesn't want the government to choose that. He wants to save as many as he can. He doesn't want to say, "Oh, there's somewhere that we should go," but the government won't let him go when he knows it's right for them to go and help, which I feel is pretty just and right. I'd probably end up siding with Captain America. I just feel it's the right thing to do. But on the other hand of it, I mean, if they go against the governments, they're going to be vigilantes and basically criminals. So, but this causes the civil war between the members of the Avengers. And Captain America is trying to prove that Winter Soldier is innocent for the bombing that took place on the UN at the council in Vienna. And he still sees Bucky as a friend, and Bucky comes out of his mind control state, and he's kind of a free man in hiding. And now that he's been framed, of course, the governments are after him and chasing him down. And there's a really awesome chase scene, which we'll get into later, involving Black Panther, Captain America, and then the police or government chasing him down. So that's really cool. We can get into that a bit later. But yeah, the movie just unfolds from there. Iron Man assembles his team. Jimmy, maybe you should take the honors of laying down who's in each team, or which side is, or who is on which side.
Oh yeah, definitely. So it's kind of interesting to see where the loyalties, not even necessarily loyalties to the kind of quote-unquote team leaders lie, but where each character kind of stands as far as this moral and ethical debate goes. So on Team Cap, you got Scarlet Witch, who is responsible for kind of a little bit of the impetus of some of this stuff, because she ends up thwarting the plan of he's like a very minor bad guy. He's very cool though, and we might talk about him a little bit later, but his name's Crossbones. Tries to blow himself up, tries to kill Captain America. She basically kind of freezes him. Yeah, exactly, in a telekinetic bubble, and she kind of throws him up in the sky just to kind of get him away. Ends up blowing up a building, like part of a building.
And to her defense, it took a lot of her effort. I mean, you could tell she was struggling to contain the blast and everything, so she did what she could, and by the time she got him up higher, she just couldn't hold the bubble anymore, and he blew up, took out that 2 floors of that office building.
Yeah.
And lives were lost, and
Exactly.
that unfolded into we need to develop some sort of check system, and that's where the Accords come in.
For sure. And then obviously his right hand man, Falcon, who's there, from the get go. He's been, since Winter Soldier, he's been just like a stalwart, companion to Cap, and he's really cool. And he does get some really great moments to shine. I've got to say one thing. I did write this down. I wrote down Free Fallen Falcon. I love he'll jump off a building and he won't always deploy his wings, and he'll just free fall for like 2 or 3 seconds, and I always love it. It's so exhilarating. But so he's on the team too, and they end up getting.
Hey, isn't he ever worried about like a malfunction or
I would think
mechanical
so.
failure?
I was thinking about that with like Iron Man too, as like in the very first Iron Man movie when he goes up and up and up and he freezes and he's like trying to get back. I'm like, I would never do that again. I would never ever do that. I'd be like, you know what? Iron Man days might be done. I might just be near the ground for now. Like I wouldn't.
I'll keep this a terrestrial.
Yeah, or I'd be like
suit.
20 feet max. But and then they end up they recruit a few others, but they recruit Hawkeye back from off the farm, which he does a pretty good job, kind of being here and there. We'll get
and
into.
Keep in mind, Hawkeye has a family.
Yeah, Hawkeye's
Kids,
got a family,
wife, simple life away from this scene.
Exactly. And then the kind of their ringer, if you will, but they pull in Scott Lang, aka the new Ant-Man. And that is the...
Who I actually took a liking to in this movie.
Yeah, took a shine
I
to
saw Ant-Man and it didn't do much for me. But this, I mean, he fit well.
Yeah.
It was cool.
Yeah.
And he brings that comedic feeling to the movie,
for sure.
which I loved.
And then you've got that team, and then you look over at Iron Man's team, and so kind of like, Cap, he's got his buddy War Machine, who's, just basically more or less another Iron Man with a few maybe more gadgets, or it seems like more weaponry, but they're not really fighting to kill, so it's not like he's
more
trying to...
standard weaponry, right?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it. And then, along with that, you get, weirdly enough, Black Widow for quite a long time, who you'd think would be kind of... I've never understood Widow, because like in these movies, she seems to be kind of very pro-government, and then sometimes she'll do a thing where it's like very anti-government, but you could also make that fact for Tony. Like in the very first Avengers, he's very like, he's hesitant to trust S.H.I.E.L.D. at all. He's like, I don't trust you guys. Like, what are you guys trying to do? Anyway, so you got Black Widow on that team. And then I'm trying to think if there's anyone else besides the last person. Oh yeah, there's 2 more. Obviously, the 2 standouts.
Well, hold on.
Oh.
Don't bring up the guy in red and blue quite yet.
Okay. Oh yeah, that reminds me. There's three characters that I've specifically been saving, and I forgot to mention on Cap's team. You obviously have the Winter Soldier, Bucky Barnes.
Oh yeah.
We'll get into
that.
it. He's kind of like, it's hard to think of him as being like on anyone else's team. But anyway, and then you also have on Iron Man's team Black Panther, kind of. Black Panther, he does kind of join the team.
He's got his own agenda.
But he's got his own agenda, and I gotta say, we might get into like each specific one later on, but I'm just gonna say this: Black Panther, amazing. Oh my gosh, the look, the fighting, just everything about him. It's like, yep, nailed it.
The way he moves and everything, and he doesn't have any spectacular abilities.
No.
He's strong, he's fast, agile, etc. Sharp claws.
Vibranium all over him.
Yeah, vibranium suit. That's cool.
Which is cool. In the trailer, they keep showing that one shot where like the helicopter's shooting at him, and he just turns around, kind of like he's bothered by it. Like all these bullets are coming off him. He's just like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
It's like, "Oh my gosh!" Like.
So his performance, amazing, awesome. His fight scenes, awesome, amazing, etc. But aesthetically pleasing. You look at him, he's just like, oh, that's so cool,
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say,
it's like seeing Iron Man for the first time, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a good point, Joe. That's a very good point. It's very like Disney's Year of the Panther, if you will, because if they had freaking Bagheera, and now it's like they got Black Panther. But so that's Team Iron Man, and then the last person to add to that, who again, kind of like his own agent, but kind of gets a little more shoehorned into this because they kind of had to. It felt a little forced, but it was still really great to see him. But we get Spider-Man, who is finally coming into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, into the fold. And I gotta say, Joe, we only saw bits and pieces, but he might just be, as far as just Spider-Man goes, not necessarily Peter Parker, because we're still getting a feel for that. I thought he nailed it. I thought it was great.
Yeah, compared to the cartoons growing up as a child, a younger Peter Parker, but good casting choice. I like that he's kind of he's a bit of a quick-witted kid, not too. I don't know how to explain him. He's quick-witted and outgoing, but he's also, what's the word? You can tell he's kind of like scared. Like
he's wet behind the ears.
He's standoffish when he meets Tony Stark.
He's a greenhorn. And that's the whole point. I think that's good because if they would have had someone like Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker, who always kind of played it cool and wasn't really bothered by anything, the whole impact of Tony Stark going to meet him in the first place would have been kind of like, hey man, I'm cool, whatever. But this kid was like, oh my god, you're Tony Stark. Like I mean, like you can come into my room, but I don't want you to come in here. It's like, it's like okay.
Yeah. What's the word for him to describe his personality? He's very. He's just like a kid.
Yeah.
And part of me was surprised that Tony Stark thought, okay, superpowered, I need another member to my team to help take these guys on.
Yeah, let's get the kid to do it.
He gets a kid, that's probably, 16? He's still in high school.
Yeah.
It's like, you're going to bring a kid into this? It's dangerous. Part of me was like, not the smartest decision there, Tony, but whatever. Well, I wanted to see Spider-Man, so.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that's really, when you get down to it, that's the reason he's in this at all. Is because they needed, they're getting Spider-Man stuff. The only thing you could maybe say was Tony Stark has been watching and they kind of show him and show a clip, and he's kind of calculated some stuff out, and he's thought, all right, if I were to bring a ringer into this fight, kind of like my ace in the hole, who is it going to be? Someone they don't know. And then it's like this kid who's actually quite strong. There's even a moment when, Winter Soldier goes to punch him and he just kind of grabs his hand. Spider-Man does, and he's kind of like, you have a metal arm? That's really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's like, it's like if any of us went into that world, we'd probably be having similar reactions. I'd be like, you're so cool.
Yeah,
I'd be like, get punched in the face. So,
yeah. It's all new to him, and he's kind of, in his own way, he's kind of cocky for being so new to his powers and everything, but I loved every interaction he had with all the other characters.
Yeah.
And he's kind of doing it off the fact that, Stark is helping him out and kind of taking him under his wing. So I don't think he has any feeling towards the Accords. I don't even think he has any idea why he's fighting, other than Tony is helping him and bringing him under his wing. So, but his interactions with the other characters as they're fighting, I think it's awesome. I loved how they showed off his strength. And I love his introduction.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you said it felt forced, Jimmy, but I will tell you, I was looking up an interview with the Russos?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Russo brothers, and they were talking about it. I don't think they wanted it to feel forced. And maybe it did a little. I can see where you're saying that. But they actually, from the start of it, when they were talking about how they wanted this storyline to go, they were actually developing it around introducing Spider-Man from the start, even before the deal had been hashed out. So they were biting their nails, hoping that the deal would go through and they would get Spider-Man rights, because if they wouldn't have had him, they had a whole part of their storyline that they said would have fell apart. So,
yeah, I mean to say that it's not completely really horribly forced on you. Just looking at Black Panther, who seems to be interwoven, and if you were to take Black Panther out, this story would feel, there'd be some parts in it you'd be like, I don't know if this really plays as well. If you take Spider-Man out, honestly, it probably wouldn't change anything. You'd miss some
I don't
cool
think
moments.
so either. Yeah. So what they were saying doesn't really totally hit home with me.
Yeah.
Maybe they're talking about plans for how Civil War continues on after this movie.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think how I would have done it better introducing Spider-Man. I think for what they had to work with, I think they did a good job. Obviously, they concentrated a lot on Black Panther too as a new character, which I thought was spent well.
Yeah,
time
for
well
sure.
spent. So,
and seeing Peter Parker has a huge role in the comics in Civil War. He kind of unmasks himself to the world, and he starts on Team Iron Man and eventually goes to Team Cap. So I was kind of hoping there'd be this moment where, he's working with Iron Man and he's talking to Cap, and he's kind of like, oh man, maybe I'm on the wrong side of this. But I think going forward, they kind of want Tony Stark to pose as a somewhat of a father figure to Peter. And if they did that right now, it would be kind of like, well, why would he ever trust him again? He's like, he took me, to Germany to fight these people I've never met before, Leipzig or wherever. And, it's just like, why would he do that? Just to win a fight, that's all it would be. So, but yeah, he was really great. I love the style in which they had him fight was a little different than what we've seen for Spider-Man before. We got to have him go toe-to-toe with someone like Captain America, who's a lot like Spider-Man, just without the webs and stuff, and it's kind of cool to see those two interact.
Yeah, I like how they showed off Spider-Man's powers, by the way, when he catches the tunnel for for boarding aircraft.
Oh, yeah.
He catches that, and he's still talking. but you can tell he's under stress. But still, I think that's cool. They showed off his abilities really well, and then and it was he has some strength. I mean, his webs, the tensile strength. Stark comments on him. He even webs down Winter Soldier and Talon to the ground, right? Which I thought was neat.
Falcon.
And then, as you mentioned, Falcon. And as you mentioned before, how he catches a punch from Winter Soldier, and he's like, "Wow, you have a metal arm." I mean, he brought a little bit of comedy to it.
Oh, for sure.
A lot in the same way Ant-Man did, that I thought was cool. And I've always said this about the Marvel films: they do a good job with bringing in the comedic aspect to a more serious movie, but that comedic aspect I often feel brings a sense of realism to it. They're real people. They like to laugh too, make light of certain situations in order to lift spirits or have a little fun with it. As serious as a situation it is, I still think it's appropriate.
Yeah, for sure.
So
yeah, well, yeah. I another thing I was going to say too about Spider-Man, along with his comedy, that I really appreciate, is that he, while being very strong, and they really could have overdone it where he could have just kind of maybe beaten up a few of these people, but they did show that he is still, like I said before, kind of a greenhorn, especially in fighting, because Cap is kind of like, they're fighting and kind of exchanging blows and stuff, and he does kind of like, it's almost like one of those moments where you just want him to say, like, you've got a lot to learn kind of thing, where it's like, okay, you're good, you're strong, but you are not trained in any way, and you are in a world that's just like, you're so in over your head, kid, you don't even realize. So, and I like those moments where it's like, okay, so like, this is a young Spider-Man, like maybe later on he won't be like that, but right now it's still, he's very young, and I like it. Naive. It's good. Naivete.
And it was cool how he comes in and he starts to really hand it to him. He's doing a really good job, taking this guy down, catching this guy, and it's kind of like an unpredictable thing that Cap's team didn't see coming and they weren't prepared for. And, eventually Cap catches on, kind of takes him out and whatnot. But, bringing on these has a lot to learn, but it also shows that Spider-Man will be and is a force to be reckoned with and can only get better from here. But more to Spider-Man. I know we kind of got off on a tangent, introducing his character, but I think it was time well spent talking about. But one other thing about him is, what did you think about the aesthetics of his suit and his look?
So
character and suit.
Okay, character. I like him. I think he's great.
Fits the role well, right?
Fits the role well, and I'm excited to see more of Peter, because that's the thing I think that a lot of people kind of push to the side. They're like, all right, as long as he's a good Spider-Man, I don't really care how Peter is. But you got to really connect with Peter and like who Peter is. He has to be like probably one of the most likable characters in all of comics, because he's so relatable. Because you're like, oh man, he's kind of down on his luck, and he's just like a regular guy, just like you or me. So if they nail that, which so far they have, then I'm excited for that. But the look of his costume, I will say it was a little weird, because I could tell, thankfully, like in the movie, that it was Stark tech, because like when he was like opening his eyes, kind of like the little things, it'd be like making mechanical noises. And so I was like, okay. And it almost seemed like all of it was CGI. I'm pretty sure he's actually in a suit for a lot of that, but did it look kind of like not real to you? Or is that just me?
With some of the things he did, I could kind of figure it was something CGI'd in, but I picked up on the eyes when he first shows up and he moves his eyes, showing expression on his face. I can see why they want to do that. They did the same thing with with Deadpool in the Deadpool movie. They had to show emotion in his face, so they moved the eyes and the forehead. Here, you mentioned you kind of heard a mechanical noise, so they're like a mechanical eye cover type thing, lenses. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Like you said, Stark Tech. I thought the suit was a little simplistic looking. I would have liked to see more of a texture to it.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way to put it, like more contrast and stuff to
like
it.
the Sam Raimi film.
Yes, those ones are sweet.
I liked his suit a lot.
Yeah, that one was probably one of the most intimidating ones they ever made.
Yeah, I like the texture of the suit. I can still remember that. That's how well done it was.
Yeah.
But I kind of missed that a little bit. But As far as the character, the actor's build and everything, I think they got the size right. I like that he's kind of smaller, still built and athletic, obviously, but he's a kid. He's smaller, kind of fits that Spider-Man aura, I feel. And I know there's been different renditions over him, in the past and everything through comics and cartoons and all that, but I feel this fits Spider-Man and who I'd like to see him portrayed as. So, but yeah, the whole eye squinty thing, at first I was like, no, really? Just do the cool lenses like he's always got, but I also see how they played it in there. He mentions he has those black goggles, and Stark's like, how do you even see out of these things? And it's, a little laughing moment. He's like, but I need those because I get a lot of information. I need to focus or whatever, meaning that his senses are really heightened, which I thought was cool. So now Stark comes up with a mask with these lenses that are built to help him cope with that. So at first it was a little, really, why'd they do that? But now I look back at it, I'm like, okay, all right, cool little feature they did. That's all right. A little bit of development on the Spider-Man character, and run with it. Sure, that's fine. But yeah, overall, Spider-Man, he was a hit for me. I personally, I probably liked him more than anybody, with the exception of Winter Soldier. I saw the Winter Soldier movie back when, and then after seeing this movie, he's my new favorite character in the series. For some reason, something about him, I think he's awesome. Kind of a badass, quiet, soft-spoken, but he's good at what he does, and kind of, I don't know, just kind of bad. I like the aura he puts out. So. Yeah,
for sure. Well, he's kind of like Punisher meets Terminator.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he could really kill just about anybody, as far as like anywhere in the world kind of thing, and there's this sense of danger about him, even when he's facing off against someone like Iron Man, who you'd be like, oh, the Iron Man would just blow him away from a distance. Like, I don't know, like this guy's, I was looking up stuff about him, and he's just like, expert marksman, expert, knife combatant, expert, like, master assassin. Like, he's just like everything. And it's just, you're like, when you see the guy, you're like, oh man, like, he's not, I wouldn't mess with that guy, like, at all. Like, he'll destroy me.
Ultimate super soldier, right?
Yeah, I love him. And they, so a lot of the stuff they did to him, I think it was, like, very similar enhancements to, like, they did to Cap, but obviously they gave him the metal arm, which I wish they kind of get more into. I was kind of hoping at the very end we get, like, a vibranium arm for him, but...
Oh, so it isn't vibranium.
I don't believe so. It's just it's a very strong metal alloy that I think that the Russians had. Back in the day.
I wouldn't think it'd be vibranium.
Or the Germans. Sorry, it's the Germans. My bad. Or I should say Hydra.
Yep, Hydra.
Not necessarily
but
Germans.
At the end, are we allowed to get that far into it, Jimmy? At the end, when he loses a certain appendage.
Oh yeah, well that's
when he loses his metal arm because he's trying to reach into Iron Man's suit and pull out his power source.
Which is good that Tony got that surgery done, because I was thinking if he didn't, like, he would probably go for that too, like the arc reactor in his chest. He'd be like, I'm ripping that out too.
Really screw him up, right? But
yeah.
He's got his hand and fingers are kind of tearing in, and he's almost about to rip out that power source, and then Tony lets loose with that chest cannon thing.
The Unibeam.
And blows his arm right off, and I was like, no!
I was thinking, like, he'll still be okay. Like
Well, he was alive, but clearly damaged to the point where he was just out for the count sort of deal. The fact that Stark is still able to keep his suit moving and going is pretty amazing to me. But needless to say, I'm wondering what's going to happen down the road for future films now that he's missing an arm. How are they going to replace it? Vibranium?
Probably vibranium arm. That's what they're going to do.
Who's going to do it for him?
Wakanda. I already have that planned out. Okay, let's take a beat quick. Let's roll back. We're gonna roll back the clock a little bit. Let's start at the very beginning. We're gonna go through. I just want to go through like the action set pieces and the scenes, because those things are so much fun to kind of go over.
For sure, man. For sure. That's what makes this movie great, by the way. The fights.
Oh my gosh.
God, such a good feel. Visually, just captivating. And I've been seeing stuff in media on it. Any age, they love it. Adults, kids, etc. I was following some actors on Snapchat, and I see they're like, just saw Civil War for the second time, and I thought it was good the first time. Second time, I picked out more information, and it was still fire. just awesome. And I tell you, man, the money they're raking in, it speaks for itself. Money in the reviews, it's yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And it's obviously like Marvel and Disney knows what appeals to the mass audience. Not necessarily that it's better that way, but in this case, it's definitely one of those like it's very very good. But
witchcraft, man, magic.
It's magic. It's that Disney magic. But one thing I gotta say that the Russos do better than anybody else, almost in any film I've ever seen. Even the other Marvel movies can't do this, and not even Batman vs Superman really got this down either. Is that it's just my phone vibrating? They didn't get that either. But the fighting is so visceral, and so like every punch you feel it, like every kick, every explosion, everything feels like a hit, like someone just hit you. I don't know. It just feels like
good sound editing.
Oh yeah,
the sounds
so
were real good. Yeah.
I mean, like when you see freaking Cap throw his shield, there's like a guy behind this column. They're kind of doing like a firefight, and he can't get a good shot on him. So what he does is he kind of throws his shield at the ground, like behind him, and like hits the guy in the back or whatever. It's like, that's amazing. Like
in my mind,
so
I'm
good.
like, okay, was that just a lucky thing? I'm just gonna say, okay, that was just a luck shot, like, because God, what kind of freaking geometry math are you doing in your head to get those angles right? I mean, that was crazy.
Yeah,
but,
so apparently,
cool.
again, in the comics, because I've been reading up on this kind of stuff, is that Steve Rogers, along with all that stuff that they had done to him, he's been able to, throughout the years, learn the exact weight and everything, and he can make up on the fly, and they haven't really talked about this in the movies, but he can geometrically on the fly decide and figure out where his shield will go depending on how much force he puts in the throw. So that's how he's so good about like trick shots coming back to him, because he's like, if I'll hit here, it'll hit here, it'll hit here, and then it'll come back to me.
Yeah, so. Sure. I mean, I it wasn't like a little like, yeah, right. I mean, maybe a hair, but it was believable for me.
Yeah, so. But they just nailed it, and that first intro was kind of cool because they kind of start off kind of covert. I mean, it's Cap with Scarlet Witch and Black Widow and Falcon, and they're kind of doing like this thing to take down a bad guy. And that sequence, man, they show off so many cool things. It's weird to think Scarlet Witch being covert ops. For me, I was like, she's like this telekinetic powerhouse, and they're just like, she's just kind of like skulking around the city. I'm like, what's going on? From
the looks of it, she's like the most powerful of them all, from what I can tell.
Yeah, she's super duper powerful. Like one of the most powerful. But is there anything in that first fight scene or sequence that you really liked?
I like, mostly for me, I enjoyed Cap, his actions, the way, he got flung into the building and Scarlet Witch pulls the gas out. Some of his takedowns there where he, hits the car. He kicks the truck into the guy, knocks him down.
Yeah.
Then he kicks the one guy into the concrete pillar, and that was really cool. I think that whole sequence where he jumps when he's in the parking lot, takes down those 2 or 3, and then gets in through the window, and she pulls the gas out. I thought that was cool. But it's hard to pick out any favorites, but I thought that was just really well done for that first sequence there, and a good introduction to where they're at and what they're doing at this point in time. So,
yeah. So 2 things about that first thing. First off, I want to say that I think they really did a good job with Falcon and his cool little Red Wing, who in the comments is like an eagle or an actual falcon that he talks to telepathically. So they just went with a drone in this one, which is probably a good choice.
Yeah, a lot. I actually saw some other reviews myself just recently, and they were saying the same thing as how in the comics and everything, it was a real falcon that he got from Brazil, I think. But let's face it, in a movie, I mean, would you rather have him CGI in some weird hawk, and what's it gonna do? I don't know. How's there gonna be a benefit to that? Whereas this, little what do you call him?
A little drone.
Drone. That's the word I'm looking for. This drone is actually very useful, reveals tactical information in a low profile. So cool. I thought it was really neat. So
that, and it even saves Black Widow at one point, kind of, and it's funny because he's like, don't thank me, you know who to thank.
I'm not going to thank that thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on, his name is
I also love the whole, like, in the beginning when he says to Black Widow, he says, like, I'd never say this to your face, but you're kind of paranoid. And she's like, what did she say? Like, yeah, no one's ever said that to my face. Why? Did somebody say something? Like,
Yep.
But with her, I gotta be honest with you, and Agent 13 a little. There are a few other people who we haven't really mentioned. Her and like Vision, who's another kind of even a very powerful side character, but we'll get to him later. But with those two, but especially Black Widow, when I see her fight now, there's nothing. It doesn't feel like anything to me, and it's not because like, oh, she's a woman or whatever. It's just like I know what move she's gonna do. She's gonna do that like lock her legs around a dude's head and like spin him to the ground, or she's gonna do the same thing to two guys who are. And I was just like, when she's fighting, I have no sense of like, oh, she might be in danger here. She only takes on like the low level grunts, and if she ever takes on anything above that, she's just like outclassed immediately. So for me, when I see those little fight scenes, which thankfully they didn't show her, she wasn't as big of a player in this one because she really can't be, because she's just like an agent, more or less. She's not a superhero. I mean, you could make the case that she is, but this whole thing doesn't really. It's not the same for her. She doesn't have to be put in check necessarily.
And to me, she's kind of like she's good for like getting intelligence and scouting, that sort of thing.
Yeah, she's like
show off in the beginning, but I feel like I don't necessarily compare her on the same level as some of the others because of her lack of superpowers, but that doesn't mean I don't discredit her for that. I feel like she's like 007 on realistic steroids. I mean, I still have an appreciation for the way she can still contend with some of these people and contribute to the team. She's the one who can deal with some of those lower level guys while, maybe a more powerful guy concentrates on the main protagonist. But I don't take any points away from her for the things she can do, and I appreciate it when she's in an altercation with some people and taking them out. I still appreciate that, and I don't mind it. So I don't discredit her, and I think Scarlett Jo is a good choice for that character.
Oh yeah, I think she's fine too. It's just that my complaint is coming in the form of the fact that I want more people like Scarlet Witch and then eventually Captain Marvel and like some of these actually like super powered female heroes to come into the fold, so they don't have to focus so much on her, just because I feel like when she kind of gets trotted out there as the sex appeal, I feel like in a lot of these movies, because they don't have a lot of women. So it's kind of like she has to represent both like the male fantasy and kind of like the female fantasy of being like, just one of the crew. So I'm excited one of these days when that's not going to be a problem. There'll just be more equality across the board. You're going to have some ladies who are able to just like, straight up just deck people and they'll go flying, 10 miles or whatever. And I'm excited to see that kind of stuff. But
I mean, yeah, that stuff is cool. But I don't mind her involvement in the future either. I still like her. So
yeah, but I'm happy they used her a little more sparingly because they had more important people to focus on, I thought, in this movie.
They're building up other characters, bringing new ones in, and that's totally fine. So
side note,
she's had her screen time for quite a bit.
Well, she's getting a standalone, I guess, after Infinity War Part 2, potentially, after the whole Phase 3 thing. So.
Oh, well, and that's fine. I mean, it might be a little bit more of an intimate feel, too, and, close quarters, hand-to-hand combat. That can be fun.
But the thing is, they have to pose somebody who's actually, like, her equal. Like, Hawkeye was, like, the closest guy we really saw come toe-to-toe with her. Because in this movie, you see freaking she's fighting Winter Soldier, and if T'Challa hadn't intervened, she'd be dead. He was like choking her to death, and she was about to die. Like he's about to crack her trachea, and I was like, kill her! No, I mean don't kill her. They don't kill people in these movies usually, so I was kind of like, if they kill somebody.
I don't know. I saw that guy get slammed into that concrete pillar pretty hard. I'm pretty sure neck snapped, maybe brain came out of his ears.
I mean, like superheroes.
He hit that wall hard.
Superheroes never die in these. Typically, they don't die. If they do, they're like minor ones. If they would have killed her off, they weren't going to kill her off in that little moment. People would have been like, whoa, they killed one of their most popular superheroes. But, again, you can call her. Do you call her superhero, Joe? Do you call her a hero? What do you call her? Do you care?
Superhero, maybe not. Hero in general, yeah.
Sure.
She contributes to the team. She's
does.
A member of the team, etc. She contributes to the cause and helps them get from point A to point B. I'll give her the title as hero. Yeah, she's got some gadgets to help her out. I mean, think about this. She held back Black Panther as he was running towards Cap and Winter Soldier. I mean, so she can help out even with somebody who's a little more overpowering than she is. So
I'm not sure how her taser wrist thing works, because I don't know if I buy that
Hey
whole
man,
thing.
Stark gadgetry, it can do anything.
But can it go through vibranium? I mean, he has a vibranium suit.
He's connected to it. It's metal. It's gonna shock the shit out of him.
Well, you'd think someone else would have thought of that with like Cap in the past or something, unless his like arm thing he's holding on to is like leather or something. I don't know. I just feel like he would have found a way around that. But they had to do something to have her slow him down. It would have been great if in the next scene they just showed him just like pounce on her and just kind of knock her out. But you just assume she was like, all right, I give up. Like, I'm not going to fight you.
Well, and Black Panther is totally his own agenda explained is he's after Winter Soldier because Winter Soldier was framed for the explosion that killed his father.
Yeah.
So he's basically out for vengeance to avenge his father. But he later learns that he was wrong and that it wasn't Winter Soldier who was responsible. So he he's not going to kill somebody that doesn't deserve it. So it's not like he's going to pounce on Black Widow and take her out. Like, why do you let him go? He's not that type of person. He is a good person. So
well, that's not. I mean, we kind of saw. He kind of seems like a little bit, kind of like the Winter Soldier, where he's kind of unstoppable. Like if you get in his way, he's gonna he's not gonna deal with you. So I think if we would have gotten to that point, if she would have been standing between them and they weren't getting on a jet right away, he might have like just thrown her aside or something. Because
for sure. He
wouldn't have held back. But one thing I was going to ask you before we got to this other part was if like we have Black Widow as hero, where do you put someone like Hawkeye? Just for equality's sake, like a guy with a bow and arrow who's pretty skilled. Do you put him at hero level? Do you put him at superhero level?
Yeah, I mean, man, this is a bit of a gray area. I mean, superhero to me, the definition would mean that there are superpowers involved.
Yeah, see, and
of some sort. And Tony Stark, is he superpowered or does he just have a really nice mechanical suit? Technically, he's a superhero because when he puts a suit on, he's got powers galore and can contend with even the most powerful people. So I mean, just for movie's sake, I can call Scarlet or Black Widow and Hawkeye superheroes because they're like when the aliens were attacking. I mean, they took out countless, however many, So I'd say Hawkeye's a tier above Black Widow because he's just got some more ability with his special arrows, etc. I mean, pretty cool abilities. But he's not, super strong or super anything in any way. Just really has spectacular skills, a very good skill set, combat as well as shooting his arrows. So he brings something to the table that's needed. It's like an Overwatch or sniper, taking out those unseen foes that, maybe one of the super guys wouldn't have seen coming from their backside, something like that. So I don't discredit them at all in these movies, but
fair enough. Well, I was just curious because I was going to say, going forward, we can, call them whatever you want, but I was interested because, for me, I still feel like both of them in any of these big situations would probably be dead pretty quickly.
They'd probably be the first to go, yeah.
They'd be the first to go. And also, you could probably make the case that Iron Man or Tony Stark maybe has, like, a genius or super-powered mind. So maybe you could say that's like a superpower. I don't know. But anyway.
Well, every once in a while he does some dumb shit.
Oh, he does tons of dumb stuff. Like in this movie, he does a ton of dumb stuff. It's really, I just can't even say the word dumb.
Can't control his emotions, the little girl.
Well, he does, like in all of his movies, he's got problems. But I get that. Another character, like I mentioned before, but we didn't really talk about, no one's really talking about it because he plays, not a huge role, but he kind of plays off of Scarlet Witch, is that of the Vision. What did you think of the Vision in this movie, Joe? Did you like him? Did you not? What did you think?
Well, first of all, he's the Vision. He's freaking weird.
Yeah, he's a weirdo.
Yeah, he's weird. He's just that logical, everything's always right in his mind. Well, I mean, he's right?
Yeah, exactly. Or at least he thinks he is.
Yeah, well, I liked him. He's cool. He's got some cool abilities, obviously. Has that little comedic entrance when he phases through the wall to talk to Scarlet Witch. But he's just kind of he's like the old man caretaker for some reason.
Yeah.
Very, very calm and cool and collected. Not like a hothead in any way. He's just very even keeled, which I guess is to be expected from a logical person like that. And Jimmy, explain how Vision came to be. I'm trying to recall from the last movie, Avengers. He's a combination of the Galaxy Stone.
Yeah, so basically what happened was Ultron didn't want to exist in the body that he had. He wanted to get a more powerful one.
Mm-hmm.
So he met with this doctor who had been making this tissue generator, and they called it like this cradle thing. And basically he was making himself a body to transfer into that would be very, very powerful. And what he did on top of that is he cracked the stone that was in Loki's scepter from the very first Avengers, which is the Mind Stone, and he put it in there as well. So when he would transfer into that body, he would be just like unstoppable.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's how they stole the cradle, like while it was almost finished, and then what they decided to do was to resurrect, or not even resurrect, to just create this thing and kind of, bring him to life. And Thor struck him with Mjolnir's thunder and lightning, I should say, and then the Vision came to be. So Vision is kind of this weird culmination of all of that, plus Jarvis's AI that used to be Tony Stark. So he's kind of a he's like a Frankenstein's monster type of thing. He's a mishmash of a lot of different things. So he's pretty powerful.
So in his mind, like the actual person in there, the mind, it is Jarvis and Ultron.
It's mostly Jarvis and like that with combined with like a little bit of the Mind Stone, which they still don't know about. And obviously this, if it were just Jarvis, he would still be very like just kind of cold and calculating, maybe have a joke here or there. But this one obviously has emotions and stuff, so
he does, yeah.
That might tie more into like the magic that kind of went along with the lightning and the stone and all of it. Yep. It's just like it's all over the place.
So like, now to expand on him a little bit, I like him. I can't feel, is he organic or is he rubber / plastic?
So he technically should be mostly organic because of the tissue generation machine like I was talking about. Yeah. I don't know if in the comics he's different, but I think he's a combination of that with I don't remember exactly. I don't know if she says that they bonded him with adamantium.
Something, because he doesn't look like he's made out of skin and flesh. Yeah, he looks like he's made out of some sort of inorganic substance.
During the movie, she says like the adamantium is bonding with the tissue that she's making incredibly, and Ultron makes the comment, the most diverse and powerful metal in the universe, and what do humans do? They turn it into a frisbee or whatever, It's kind of like, you would think that, So, or sorry, not adamantium, vibranium. I apologize. They don't have adamantium, but vibranium. So I think he's tissue, vibranium, and all that stuff. He's like all the Avengers, little bits and pieces like slammed together.
Yeah. So getting back to our point, Vision, I liked him. He's just kind of a side character to play off of, I feel, although he's incredibly powerful, etc. Iron Man puts Scarlet Witch under house arrest, so to speak, and doesn't really tell her. And Vision is kind of her babysitter because Vision is on Tony Stark's team, her side. But she figures it out, and then Hawkeye comes to kind of take her away, and Vision tries to stop him, but Scarlet Witch is like, no, I don't agree with the this law. I want to go on the Captain America side. She wants to leave. She doesn't want to be a prisoner. And so she takes him down, which I was like, oh, she can do that.
Yeah, wow. She can definitely do that.
But leading up to that point, you see them interact, and Vision speaks of her in a way that alludes to he's very fond of her.
Yeah.
And I think it alludes to a little bit of a romantic feel there.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
So I think more to come on that in the future. I'm not sure how that's going to work, but hey, everyone has their fetishes, whatever.
Well, do you
if
want
you're
me to tell
into
you...
a metal weird guy, then go ahead.
I can tell you what happens in the comics, and it gets really weird, and I honestly don't think they'll do it.
They have kids and everything, yeah, I know. It gets...
Well, but they're not even... Like, you realize... It's like Scarlet Witch made the kids. Like, she made them with her abilities. But they're actually part of the demon Mephisto. And at one point he comes to collect, and he absorbs the children back into himself, if I remember correctly.
Oh yeah, that's all
screwed up. Look forward to that in the next
the hell
Avengers
wrote that
movie.
Crap?
I know, they're just like, we'll do whatever we want, because we're Marvel. One thing I really like too, and this speaks to I've been hot and cold with Hawkeye. But when he was shooting arrows when he's going to get Scarlet Witch, he kind of shoots two off to the side, and right there I was like, he's planning something. And so Vision comes back to stop him, and he gets like caught in this electrical field, and it's like, see that I love that kind of, if you're gonna be in this kind of world, you really need to be like, I need to be thinking ahead constantly.
Yeah. So that's where you gotta give Hawkeye some credit, right?
Yeah, and that's where I think maybe that's my biggest problem, is where I like my human heroes who are regular to be ones who think ahead as opposed to being reactionary, whereas Scarlet, or I gotta stop saying that. It's Black Widow, Scarlet Widow, no. Black Widow, she is basically reactionary. Like when she gets in fights, she's not like, I'll think ahead of this. Maybe in the chair fight in the very first Avengers where she's fighting against those guys while she's tied up, that's a pretty good, like she thinks ahead on that one. But the rest of it's kind of like, she just kind of rolls with it. Whereas I feel like more superheroes can do that kind of stuff because they can get away with it. Like Cap can run through an entire ship and take out everybody because he's like, well, I have these abilities to fall back on if something goes wrong.
But he's also calculated, and he's always 2 moves ahead of the bad guys, right? Which I feel Scarlet is to a point, but Cap does it in a more impressive way, obviously. And yeah, he has his abilities to fall back on, but
that's the big thing.
You know, that's the thing. Hawkeye and Black Widow, they both have to have that, you know, ability to think 2 steps ahead of the people they're going against. Otherwise, they're not effective.
Yeah, and Hawkeye's shown it before. One of my favorite shots in Avengers is he shoots an arrow at Loki. Loki grabs it, and he kind of looks back at him, smirks like, come on. And then it blows up, and you're like, yeah, because he's like, I know this guy can catch this, but it's not going to end well for him. It's like... Yeah,
well, you would think Loki's smart enough to realize, oh, that's not a normal arrow.
he's a little full of himself at that point. He's got a whole alien army behind him at that point. Yeah. But yeah, Vision's all right. I'm excited to see where they go with him, but I won't be too sad if he exits the MCU soon, which he probably will due to his the fact that he has an Infinity Stone. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, so Vision, good side character. Despite how powerful he is, he's not really a main concentration of the film. He does have one moment where he, you know, impacts the team greatly. He was distracted because he was tending the Scarlet Witch, you know, hence the romantic feelings that you can kind of see. He was distracted, so when he shoots a beam up at the ship, the jet's taking it. Not jet, but
he's trying to shoot Falcon, I think.
Oh yeah, it was Falcon he was trying to shoot, and Falcon sees it coming and dodges it, and sure enough, the freaking beam hits War Machine and takes out his power source, and War Machine falls to his presumed death.
Yeah,
dang near. I mean, he falls. God, it was a long fall, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They couldn't stop him in time, and by the time he hit the ground, it was just a hell of an impact. And yeah, Stark was pretty upset considering that Colonel Rhodes is his best friend in real life, really, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
So, turns out in the end, Colonel Rhodes gets paralyzed, and he lives, and Stark's helping him to walk again with some help from his tech and whatnot. But you can tell it's going to be a challenge, and that may be the last you see of War Machine.
Yeah, we'll see. He'll be fine. He can still, someone was saying, like, he can still fly around in a suit. He doesn't need his legs.
Yeah, you know, I mean, that's where you got to get into a technical aspect. How do those suits work? Does he need to be able to move himself, or does it just go off of his thoughts? Does it move itself? I don't know. Who knows? That can be a whole nother stinking discussion. But needless to say, you know, goes to show that I think it kind of impacts the team in a way that, God, this fighting is hurting, you know, our friends, the people that we fought alongside, that sort of thing. So Stark was really hit by it, and you can tell by his disposition when it happens and afterward. Yeah, so I guess that kind of caps it off for Vision. Not much of a factor other than what we've covered thus far, right? So
yeah, exactly. And I would like to, we'll reposition back onto what I was going for in the very first part. Was there's kind of 3 or 4 main action scenes in this movie. We went over the first one, and you know, we talk about like what they did, and they end up fighting Crossbones, who I thought was actually kind of an interesting character, like a little side villain. It's kind of nice to see a guy come back from the last Winter Soldier or last Cap movie, just to kind of like do another through line, if you will. But then we get to probably one of my favorites, even though I'm thinking about it more today. I was talking with somebody about this today. It's like I'm not completely sold on the effect of how they were running, but the whole chase sequence between Captain America's chasing Black Panther and Black Panther's chasing Winter Soldier through these tunnels after this whole thing, and that whole sequence is so cool. Like they're showing off these three guys who are kind of equally matched in like speed, strength, and a lot of these things, but you just get to see them kind of let loose in this tunnel and like do this huge chase thing, and there's motorcycles and cars and explosions and it's like all this stuff. It's like, oh my gosh. And like, what did you think of that sequence, man? Did you like that one?
Yeah, that was probably one of my I can't pick out a favorite sequence through the whole stinking thing. It was all pretty epic, but
yeah.
I think obviously we'll get to it, but my favorite was the one at the airport. But
oh yeah,
speaking of this one, I did love it. Cap, he thinks he's unsure whether it was actually Bucky Barnes who did the terrorist attack on the council, but they learn some information through the agent who gives them the information. Who's the one he kissed? The blonde?
Oh, Agent 13, Emily Van Camp from Revenge.
Yeah, I was just going to say Emily Van Camp, right?
Yeah, man. Amanda Thorne is back. Or Emily Thorne. Sorry, Amanda. What was her name? Amanda something. Amanda Clark. There it is.
Yeah,
I did it.
Yeah, her
I know things.
Other identity. Which she doesn't bug me. I kind of like her in her role. She works well. And Cap with a little love interest there.
Oh yeah.
Good for you, Cap. Huh?
Good for you, Cap. Niece
Anywho.
of his former love interest, Peggy Carter, which was like, oh,
yeah,
okay.
You really like that family, huh, Steve?
Anywho,
I can't blame him. I mean, she's gorgeous.
They're both great.
So, so she gives him a little bit of a tip. We found some information that may lead to where Winter Soldier is. So it's like, well, if somebody's going to bring him in, I need to be the one to bring him in, sort of thing. So he goes after him, finds him in this dingy apartment, kind of, secluded away from everybody and kind of in hiding. In Winter Soldier, the guy does not talk much. He's very soft-spoken, kind of, just almost like a dang mute. And one of the reasons I find him cool is he's still mysterious throughout the whole thing.
Oh my gosh.
And just badass. But so this leads to a thing because the government comes to try and haul Winter Soldier away or take him out, actually. I don't think they're planning to haul him in alive initially because they had orders to shoot sight unseen. But Winter Soldier just uses Cap as like a tool to take out some of these guys and makes his way out of the building, and then it leads on to this chase scene because Black Panther shows up and they're all like, who's this new guy? I don't know, but we're about to find out, and next thing you know, you have two people chasing Winter Soldier, and I think it's awesome. They're jumping through traffic, down buildings, and then they jump into the tunnel and they're chasing after him through traffic, and it was really cool when they show how fast they can run up, next to the traffic.
Yeah.
Wasn't that cool? I thought that was really neat. All of a sudden you just see them just like super fast. It's not like Flash from DC Universe, but it's just superhuman fast. Like you could tell they have those abilities, which was really well done. It wasn't over exaggerated, but it wasn't underplayed either. It was perfect.
Yeah.
Well done.
We're getting close, I think, to a point where we won't really be able to tell. Like you could still tell it was like just a little, like a hair off. Maybe be like, okay, I can still tell this isn't like their legs aren't moving as fast as you think they would, or whatever. But it still was such a great shot where you're like, it doesn't matter. It's like they're all so cool. It's like it doesn't matter, man.
Yeah. So yeah, they continue on. They're running through the tunnel and jumping cars, and Black Panther is hitching a ride, on the back of Cap's car that he jacked. And Winter Soldier, probably the coolest move he does throughout this whole movie, rips a guy off his motorcycle as he's going by him and grabs the motorcycle handlebar and swings it around in a 360 and hops back, or be a 180, and hops on it and just gone. Cool bike, by the way, for a gearhead like myself. I was like, yeah, that's the one I would have picked too. And
yeah.
Anywho, he just starts speeding away, and Black Panther gets a bit of a jump off the front of the car and just gets him in the back tire. And I'm screwing this up, aren't I, Jimmy?
No, you did that right. No, that's right. And then that's because that's like one of the coolest scenes in the whole movie, and like in the trailer they even showed it. But yeah, he does he catches
But there's
up.
one point where something's I can't recall this properly, even though it was one of my favorite scenes. Winter Soldier's actually like leaned over on the bike about to lay it down, but he uses his metal arm to like as like a skid plate to keep the bike upright.
Oh yeah, I think
which I thought was an awesome little feature, and I think that might have been a little earlier, but
yeah, and I think Cap at one point forgets that, and he just grabs a car, and then he's trying to catch up, or somebody's trying to catch a car, and then like Black Panther gets on that car, and he's like, I can't shake this guy. Like, he's like just holding on. It's like
those claws, man, those claws.
That whole sequence is just, it's crazy. I love
a feast for the eyes, if you will.
Feast for the eyes. That's not even compared to the other one, but the trope of superheroes fighting SWAT is always so good to me, and I think I fell in love with that way back with X-Men 2 or X2, X-Men United, where the SWAT team attacks the Xavier mansion and Wolverine butchers like some guys, and it's still PG-13, but he just like he straight up throws a guy into a fridge and just stabs him through the chest with like 6 blades, and I love that stuff. And there's a part in this one where he's talking, like Cap's talking to Winter Soldier, and he's like, there's no killing. And he like, punches like through the floorboards, and he's like, I won't. And he pulls out a bag, like a go bag. And it's like, oh, is he trying to like, it's like, do you think he was going to like punch and kill Cap? But he's like, no, he's like, just grabs this thing. And then they're fighting or whatever down the stairway, kind of like the Daredevil season 2 thing. And then he, he kicks a guy off. And like Cap grabs this poor SWAT member, whoever he is, and he's like, "Come on, man!" Like like he's like trying to save guys' lives, but they're just wrecking these guys. These guys have never fought anything like these boys before. Like it just shows that they're in a tier of their own, and just the escalation of that whole thing. I mean, you go out on the that top of the building where you get that Black Panther reveal, and he's fighting Winter Soldier, and we see a martial art style that we haven't really seen before. It's kind of unpredictable. He's kind of jumping off things and using like a lot of kicks and stuff, and you're just like, whoa, what's he doing? Like, it's just that whole thing, so good. Oh my gosh, I don't know what else there is to say about that, but there's the thing in the beginning. There's another kind of intimate one at the end that we can get into, but I think the airport scene is probably something we should probably chat about just a little bit. We've touched on it here and there, but I guess, Joe, who are like your favorites in that fight, and what are your favorite moments?
Spider-Man.
Good
Spider-Man.
choice.
Ant-Man.
Okay. Yeah. I like when Spidey's fighting against Winter Soldier and Falcon, and he's kind of like swinging above them, and he's kind of like saying little things to them, and he does mess them and ends up kind of webbing them down, and this kind of funny little chemistry between Winter Soldier and Falcon has been kind of going throughout the entire movie, and at this one point he just Falcon just tells him, he's like, I hate you, or I think one of them says to the other, just like so funny. It's just I love that whole little bit. It's like, this is an intense fight, but it's so nice to have that levity in it, because if it wasn't, it'd be like, it's a long fight sequence, and it's like, oh, this would be,
it livens it up. You appreciate the interactions and the fighting, but you also appreciate that, what's the word you use? Levity?
Yeah, exactly.
I like that too. Yeah.
For sure. And I think, to be honest, I thought Paul Rudd as Ant-Man stole the show. Like, one of my favorite bits that no one talks about is that he's like, all right, Cap, when I throw this truck or whatever, you throw this at it or whatever. Or he threw the truck.
Throw it at this.
And then so they throw the truck, they throw this little disc, and the disc, like, he has a tiny little truck, I should say, the size of like a Hot Wheels car in his hand. He throws it, and it turns into a big truck. It falls over, it explodes. It's like a huge gasoline tanker thing. And he's like, oh my goodness, I thought that was a water tank.
Yeah, that was so funny. I started laughing out loud there. That was probably the one point where I actually kind of burst out in laughter.
Like, I love the fact that they did this, is that they put him on the end of one of Hawkeye's arrows and shot him off. I love that kind of stuff. That's like the superhero, synergy that you go to the theaters for. And all that Ant-Man stuff, I'm so glad they did Ant-Man before this, because if they did that, you'd be like, how are they going to top it? Because it was just so good. And then his reveal to Giant Man, I had people in the theater like clapping. Like, they were clapping when Giant Man showed up, when he turned into it. I was like, I wasn't even expecting it. I'm a pretty big fan. I was like, oh, what's going on here? And then he just, he just explodes. I'm like, oh my gosh. I was like,
yeah.
it's
He's
getting out of
like,
hand.
last time I did it, I passed out, but we'll see.
There's like Vision who goes through him at one point, and he's like, something just went into me.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, okay. So they're always. I think it's good to have that one guy that's kind of like a carefree, asinine jokester.
Yeah.
I'm fine with it, and I think he's the perfect guy for it because I can't really take him too seriously to begin with because it's Paul Rudd.
Exactly. Well, they have one on that team, and then Spidey's on the other team, so you're getting like jokes from both sides.
Yeah.
Which is great.
It was just, something just went into me. And then the water truck part, you hit it on the head. That was probably one of my favorites.
I was
but
just
so,
like, so good.
You started talking about when he gets on Hawkeye's arrow tip and Hawkeye shoots him at Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
That was, I'm like, oh, where are they going with this? Oh, at first I thought he was going to expand and go big again and just like hit him out of the air, but I'm like, no, that would hurt him really bad.
Yeah, for sure. And he like kind of slips into his suit and starts ripping it up from the inside at some point. It's like, well,
and then here's
great.
another little comedic comic relief. He's like, oh, you're so going to have to take this into the shop. I was like, that was great.
I feel like Iron Man gets put through the ringer in a lot of this because he's kind of like a pseudo antagonist, but that part when, you know, Hawkeye is like shooting at him and he's like, I never miss, and then, you know, Tony says like, oh, there's a first time for everything, and then he's like, he says something, gotcha, major look, yeah. Yep, then he turns around and there's like a car park or like or I should say like a parking ramp.
Scarlet Witch is pulling out all the cars on,
and all these cars are falling down on top of Iron Man, and it's just like, oh my gosh, like you didn't realize that Hawkeye like brought the big guns, like he's ready to take you down. But I loved Ant-Man. I thought he was expertly used, and I think he works so much better in an ensemble cast.
Yeah,
that's what my thing is.
The standalone film didn't do much for me, and
okay.
I got a little bored almost.
It's like Iron Man. It was the same plot. It's just like, keep him with the Avengers, and the next one will be Ant-Man and Wasp, and hopefully now we don't have to do this whole like they're by themselves thing. Maybe we'll get like one or two. We could potentially get an Avenger
some support heroes, right?
Yeah, exactly. Get some more people in there.
I like that.
Why not? You know, why wouldn't you? I know it'll cost more money, but people don't want to see just like, oh, it's just like if they did a Captain America movie again. It was just Cap by himself fighting people. It'd be like, okay, this is kind of weird. Like we're backpedaling a lot, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I thought that was great.
So I said Spider-Man 3 times, Ant-Man once.
You said Spider-Man twice.
Twice. Oh my god, I can't count. It's been a long day, all right?
That's okay.
Anywho, Ant-Man was great. I like the comedic relief is spot on. It was needed and well placed. I mean, everybody laughed at those moments. In the water truck one, I'm glad you mentioned that right away because that one still makes me giggle a little bit. So I would have been like, I knew it was a fuel truck. I knew.
Yeah, exactly.
If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it big, right? I want to see balls of fire and explosions.
The jokester on the team
like
is the
Michael
only
Bay.
one. He takes the first blood. He kills someone right off the bat.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. I was like, wait, is Michael Bay directing this?
Yes, exactly. The one, they had a few explosions. Yeah, they had some good ones.
But, so yeah, Spider-Man, he hit it home for me. I liked his introduction, kind of like, it made me smile. Man, I'm a Spider-Man fan. I just like him. He's, and I love the witty banter, and I like the fact that he's a kid, but he's messing with all these experienced, seasoned vets, you know? And I think it brought a new aspect to it that made it a little more fun. They hit it home for me. I think it was a good choice, and I think, now seeing him, I understand what you were saying about the Andrew Garfield version. I now see that there was a better way to go, and I can't wait to see how they expand on Spider-Man moving forward.
Yeah, I just hope whatever they do, they really bring like whatever writers or the Russos get a little bit in on some of the Sony stuff, the standalone stuff that Sony's gonna do, because I really want that influence that we had with this one to continue, because it would be such a slap in the face if they did their standalone Spider-Man film and he was nothing like the one we got in this movie. I'd be like, no, you screwed up. Like,
I want to keep this PG-13, but if they fuck it up, I swear to God, I'm gonna be pissed. I will find somebody. I will go to their home address and I'll take care of them. I swear. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, well, I'll be with you. And you know,
I'm kind of half joking there. I'm not that serious about it, but I really have high hopes for Spider-Man. So.
Yeah, and one thing that you were kind of getting to eventually here, but with Spider-Man is that he and Steve Rogers, in a weird way, have a lot in common. They're both.
I'm from Queens.
Yeah.
Oh,
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn.
Yeah, exactly. It's like they're both from New York. They were both kind of like scrawny people before some sort of crazy thing happened to them, and it's turned them into this kind of like. Eventually, Spider-Man will become this, but more of like these patriotic like heroes. But they're not like cosmic level powers. They don't have like super powers, you know. But they have like really good abilities that make them a threat along with their intelligence and stuff.
I almost see Spider-Man as I feel he's a tier above Captain America. The only reason Captain America, I feel that way. I know he's not. So hear me out on this one.
Okay.
Captain America, ability-wise, he's a leader. He's fast, strong, smarter than all get out, etc. The experience is what outweighs, helps him, you know, overcome. For sure. Spider-Man as a character. Spider-Man is a whole ability-wise and everything, and if you added some experience and some, you know, some more seasons to him, I think he'd be something to contend with for Cap for sure. Sorry to say, but Spider-Man's pretty powerful.
Yeah, but when you think about this version too, the only thing that really he has, I mean, they didn't really play off Spider Sense too much, and wall crawling. But besides that, he's very similar to Cap as far as their movesets go. His webbing is synthetic. And just like if you took the webbing away, if you took Cap's shield away. Like, it's really dependent on like what you pit them with. Because that would be a good kind of versus thing, like those two fighting each other. But, you know, hand to hand, we'll give it to Cap. But there's a little more of a wow factor maybe with Spidey. So, I don't know. I still put them in the same place.
How strong is Cap?
Very strong.
Could he have caught that tunnel, the boarding tunnel?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure. I'm trying to remember.
I don't know. When I really think it through and break it down, I don't know that he could have like totally caught that.
I don't know.
I know he's really strong, but if I think about it this way, Spider-Man catches a punch from Winter Soldier's metal arm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then he even twists it a little bit. See, I don't know. I feel Spider-Man's got a bit of a strength edge.
Maybe he does.
Not by much, but I'm saying slightly. I feel if you really think it through and think back to examples and really use your logic on it, I feel like Spider-Man might have a slight edge strength-wise.
I have no idea. We'll have to look this up. But right now, we'll put Spidey. We'll give him a slight edge.
I mean, he stops a car at 40 miles an hour.
That's true.
Just saying,
I'm trying to think
that's
of
quite
in the movies,
a bit right there, man.
What are we like in the movies? What I'm trying to think of what Cap's done that's been like insane. You know, Cap did go on the front of that train in Age of Ultron and like put a shield up and like bash through all those buildings. That's got to be like a strength test.
I can't even remember that. I apologize.
That's okay. Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out.
Short-term memory loss.
Also, strength doesn't mean everything. We've seen people who are pretty strong go up against. And Cap's he's fought pretty well.
All about that experience and those smarts, man.
Yeah, man. He's been doing it for a long time. Even though we should say he was frozen for quite a while too. So, which he does to make a comment at one point where he and Bucky are getting off at the end, and Bucky's like, "Man, she must be like 100 years old or whatever," and he kind of pats him on the back. He's like, "We are too, Buck." Like, you know.
Yeah. No kidding.
It's just like, yeah, we are, aren't we? But that whole sequence, super good. And, you know, from the trailers, it kind of looks sparse. Like, when these two teams are running at each other, you're like, this isn't that much. But when they start throwing down, there's a lot going on.
Oh,
and
yeah,
that's a feast for the eyes. That's a spectacle, for sure.
A feast for the eyes is the Joe Lever quote used by Jimmy Good.
Exactly, yeah, I'm using it. But then the last thing, as far as fight scenes go, that kind of intimate 2-on-1 at the very end against... you got, you know, Cap and Winter Soldier against Iron Man, and the guy who we haven't really mentioned at all, but the kind of the main villain of this whole thing, Baron Zemo, a guy from Sokovia, or possibly from Germany originally, then went to Sokovia, who's been kind of orchestrating this whole thing because of his...
He was a Hydra colonel or something like that?
No,
he was a colonel of some army. Was it Russia?
He used to... Okay, in the comics, he's like a Hydra higher up. So I'm not sure if I have to watch it again and see if he like, because he talks about Hydra, but he also says like, you know, Hydra, I don't care if Hydra's dead, whatever. But in this one, he's like Sokovia Special Forces, and his family dies, and then he gets really pissed, and he's like, well, how do you kill the Avengers? It's not, and I like the plan, kind of.
More powerful men have tried than him.
Exactly, yeah. The plan hinges on a lot of things, and it seems a little out there, but the whole thought was like, if I get them to kill each other, or if he kind of sows the seeds of doubt, which is kind of cool because at the end they say he's like, oh, your plan failed, and Zemo's kind of like, did it? Did it fail? But he's kind of orchestrating this whole thing. He's a main player, but thankfully they didn't kill him because it would be nice to see some recurring villains here. And
I loved how Black Panther stopped him.
I was gonna say that was great because
the living isn't done with you yet.
Exactly. Well, that he just also says like, I don't want to follow. There's been so many people consumed by revenge, and I'm not going to be one of those people that stops now. And it's like that is what Panther's about. He's kind of above some of like this kind of these little quandaries or these
petty
problems.
Things,
yeah, he doesn't care. He's like, forget this. He's kingly. I love it. But
he's smart. He has all the knowledge of the prior Black Panthers.
Yeah, and we'll see how they play into that because that'll be interesting. But what did you feel about that last fight with Iron Man, Cap, and Winter Soldier, Joe?
Well, part of me is disappointed in the fact that Tony Stark can't control his emotions, but you can tell that his family relationship is part of his mental suffering. But so when he saw that old video, which by the way the video they show his parents getting killed, I'm like, okay, so there's a cameraman there with Winter Soldier walking around the car and taking shots from here, and okay, walk over here. All right, now I'm gonna go over here. Like this, it went from surveillance footage to you're there, which I'll let it slide. It's kind of like looking at it as a memory, so to speak, from Winter Soldier's point.
Yeah.
But so he's watching that. He sees Winter Soldier kills his parents. But I mean, come on, Stark. I mean, it wasn't really him. I mean, it was his body, but he's under mind control. He didn't have a choice. He does what he's told. So in my mind, I'd be pretty freaking pissed, but I would be more concentrated on the task at hand. And I would have that conversation later, or maybe punch him in the face just to get one in on him, But I don't think it's worth killing the guy over. It's not his fault. Yeah, I don't feel.
Okay, so that brings up two questions for me quick, Joe. Do you think, and I don't know if they specifically said it, but does Winter Soldier, is he aware of when he's doing these missions? Or not? Like, some of them, yes, he is, but sometimes it feels like he kind of is just waking up and saying, like, what happened?
Well, Stark says, do you even remember them? Do you even remember killing them? He's like, I remember all of them.
Oh, yeah, he does.
So, yeah, I mean, Winter Soldier, he remembers it all, but he doesn't necessarily have a choice to fight against his better judgment. He's got his orders and he's programmed, basically. So everything he sees and does, he remembers, but he's basically a drone at that point. So
yeah, there's the part though when they have him like kind of in that metal or that vice, and they're talking to him, and it almost seems like he wakes up and says like, "What did I do?" kind of like thing. And I don't know if that's just like a kind of self-inflecting kind of thing where he's like, "Oh, what have I done?" kind of thing, or if he was just. But yeah, you're probably right. And then the other question is, the person I was talking to earlier also posed this is like, if you can be mad at Winter Soldier, then you should be angry at Hawkeye from the first Avengers when he got mind controlled and shot the helicarrier like out of the sky, basically.
Yeah.
It's like you're not really angry at Hawkeye. It's like you're angry at Loki.
Exactly. Come on, guy. I mean, you're smarter
T'Challa
than
figures that out.
I understand it's his parents, and you can get consumed by emotion at a point like that, but I don't know. I expected more from Tony Stark, but in the state that he's in, I think he's pretty mentally exhausted as it is. So
yeah.
I give it to him. I'd probably react in a bit of a violent way for a moment, but I think clear. In the end, my logic would prevail, and I would probably call it quits. I'm not going to kill a guy.
Well, so you're a good person, Joe. Someone's like, "Yeah, I killed your mom, and I remembered it." I'd be like, "All right, you're done." No, I'm just kidding.
But if I knew, well, Stark knew it was out of his control. If I knew it was out of their control and they were being controlled by somebody else, I automatically focus on the person that made him do it.
Yeah.
Which has all been said and done. But yeah, so.
And I think they do a good job in this movie, if you really think about it, of describing and showing off all the problems that Tony Stark's really having. They show his kind of problems with his parents. They show the fact that Pepper Potts, which I'm really glad they kept her out of this one, because I've heard she's hard to work with. Gwyneth Paltrow, calling you out. But they kept her out, and it was kind of like, oh, they're kind of like broken up. And he's trying to keep this whole thing together. He's trying to keep the Avengers together and all of this stuff. And now finding out that this person that you're kind of your co-leader is trying to help defend is someone that killed your parents, and it's just like so stressful and all this stuff. And finally he gets like, he snaps, And I think it's still understandable. I don't like that he did it too, but I'm like, that's okay. It could have been worse. You know, he wasn't gonna kill. It didn't seem like he was ready to like straight up kill. Like both parties seemed like they're kind of holding back, you know, a little bit.
Yeah.
And also Rhodey, like the fact that Rhodey like almost died. I think there was a lot going on that people don't give Tony Stark credit for because he's going through a lot of stuff.
True. Yeah,
I feel
he was
bad for
pretty
him.
distraught over Rhodey getting hurt. So.
But that last fight scene, isn't that a great one? Oh my gosh, Winter Soldier and Captain America against Iron Man. What a good combo. Like
if I had a penny for every time I heard I'd be rich right now. But it was a feast for the senses. That is for show. I enjoyed it, but man, poor Winter Soldier. I hope he gets that arm replaced.
He'll be fine. Don't worry about that. He's unstoppable. One thing I like too is I kind of thought they were gonna make Tony Stark or Iron Man into more of a Batman character, where like he would already have had Cap's like moveset programmed in, but he didn't. You know what I mean? Like he never thought I'll have to fight him. He's just like he's like, all right, we got to learn this quick. Let's go. And then he's just getting kind of clobbered, and then he turns the tables on him. And
now let's kick his ass, you know. And that was kind of cool. That was a cool moment, and
yeah, that was great.
Man, that suit is tough.
Oh yeah.
If only they had Ant-Man there to run in and pull some wires.
Yeah, Iron Man is a force to be reckoned with. I think that's another thing. It's just like you always think you're like, okay, he's got like a cool metal suit, but he's just a dude in a suit. And it's like, man, that suit's pretty good. Like,
yeah, the thing is, I think about, okay, I don't want to get too technical and off on a big tangent, but mechanical suit like that, okay, he can move fast and everything. He's pretty agile. If you're taking a fast right hook from a mechanical suit like that, and it's coming quick, so it's not like a slow hydraulic punch. It's like a quick, you know, almost human punch, but it's made out of frickin' metal. That's gonna frickin' break something. I don't care how tough you are.
That's why the healing factors are good for the super soldiers.
Yeah. And the next question is, why the hell doesn't Iron Man work on a vibranium suit? I'm waiting for that.
That's an excellent question. I think the real reason why, Joe, is because vibranium is super duper rare, and the only vibranium they've ever really gotten out of Wakanda, besides the stuff we see in Ultron that gets kind of like taken out by the smugglers, by that guy who gets branded and loses an arm, is the stuff that they got for Cap's shield. Besides that, all the vibranium is in Wakanda. So unless Iron Man gets on better terms with T'Challa in the future, we won't see a vibranium Iron Man suit yet. But that's a good question. Yeah. That's probably why. And after all this stuff, it's going to be hard because it's like T'Challa's like, well, actually, no, they were kind of on the same side, I should say. So I wouldn't be surprised. We'll see. But that'd be cool. Maybe in Infinity Wars, Joey. Okay, we'll put that down. Side bet. Infinity Wars sees a vibranium Iron Man suit. There it is. We did it.
Yes, sir. We could write the next story, Jimmy.
I know. Okay, this is
Make
the other thing
calls.
too.
I'll have my people call your people, and my people will call their people, and we'll get in on this.
All of our people are talking right now. General Ross, who's Secretary of State now, is in this movie. Carried over, I think it's John Hurt from the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, sure.
I thought when I saw him, I was like, he's gonna be the bad guy. He's gonna be Red Hulk in this movie, and the end fight scene's gonna be sick because they're all gonna be fighting, and then he's gonna walk out, and they're gonna all like Cap will be talking to Iron Man, be like, "No, man, Tony, like he's been pitting you against us," and then he's just gonna just turn into Red Hulk right there. And I was like, "This is gonna be sweet." It never happened, but I wanted it to happen. I was like, "Red Hulk's coming down the pipeline. I'm calling it right now."
One step at a time, Jimmy.
Because it's coming, guys. I'm telling you, Red Hulk has to be coming. Joe, you know about Red Hulk, right?
I do. Yeah.
Wouldn't that be great?
It would be. Gosh. I was waiting to see a little snippet of Bruce Banner hiding somewhere.
Yeah, like watching on an iPad, and he's like, "Oh, this is getting bad."
Those idiots, something like that.
Yeah, and he does make a good point. Ross does about he's like, "Where are Thor and Banner?" He's like, "If I misplaced like 30, megaton warheads, people would be pretty angry at me." And it's like
exactly, yeah. I thought that was a well said line right there.
Yeah, because they are
true. Yeah, they're big powerhouses, probably the biggest in each team. Why am I saying that within the Avengers, whatever?
Yeah, well, but still they are.
Yeah, now I'm breaking them up into teams like it's a set thing now. But
well, there are different tiers. I mean, they're all on the same team, but you have like your Hawkeye and Widow on one end, and then you have Hulk and Thor on the other. And you're like, all right, like Cap's kind of a little closer to Hawkeye and Widow, and Iron Man's maybe a little closer to Thor and Hulk, and you kind of place them where you want.
Yeah, I definitely see Thor and Hulk towards the top of the pyramid
sure.
up there. Vision probably above them because he's pretty powerful as well.
Yeah,
but,
Vision and Scarlet Witch might be. It depends.
They're
it's
probably
so
at the top of the tier for me as far as characters we've seen thus far. Black Panther, Cap, those two together, Winter Soldier. They're probably as far as levels go. Black Widow and excuse me, Hawkeye towards the bottom. Then you got Cap and those guys above them. Then you got people like Spider-Man and who else? Maybe who is it? Talon? Is that his name? What?
Falcon?
Falcon, yeah. He'd be in there. Maybe even a step lower with Cap and those guys. Trying to think. Spider-Man. Then who do we got? Now we're talking more top tier, right? So now we're talking like Thor, Iron Man. Those guys. I'll put them up kind of together. Then you're thinking like Scarlet Witch, Vision. Those are the real powerhouses that are kind of almost limitless,
Yeah, it's hard because it's like we're comparing like different types of power sets.
Exactly. So you can't really. I mean, you can
Or,
kind of categorize them, but
yeah.
they're all special in their own way. And,
unlike, but
yeah,
like Scarlet Witch can like change reality at certain versions and
exactly.
stuff like that. So,
so
like,
she's kind of like the cherry on top of the sundae for me.
Probably.
She's up there. So.
But Hulk, I will say that Hulk. People they don't want to say that, but he I think he's probably one of the greatest threats because not only is he super duper strong, but he's unpredictable a lot of the time. So
yeah,
it's kind of
so he'd be up there too. But I feel like there'd be through some creative way. I think there'd be a way for them to. I don't want to say detain him or anything like that because he's. I mean, I know he's unstoppable, but I figure they'd be able to do something to minimize his effect on the planet.
Which I'm glad, by the way, they didn't get into like they didn't have Black Widow like moping around the whole time, being like, "I wonder how Banner's doing." Like I'm glad they didn't like.
Oh
put her down to just
I
like
forget that they had a bit of a thing.
It's so weird. It's so forced.
And it's okay.
I think
It's all right. No, I'm all right with it. We'll see where they go with it. Then I'll comment on it. Until then, I'm not gonna really say it's bad or good.
I just had a bad idea that they'll never take this, and I don't want them to necessarily.
They'll have
do
little
it.
baby Hulks.
No, what if he accidentally killed her? And then he got out of it, or he like paralyzed her, and then he was like, "Oh my gosh, like guys, I need to be like, you guys need to put me somewhere. Like I can't."
Either that, or it angers him so much that he just goes unleashed, and they can't stop him or something.
That'd be
That's like Superman, and when Lois dies, he just loses it and kills everything.
Yeah, pretty much in that. Yeah, that's Gods Among Us.
You remember when they mentioned Iron Man or Tony Stark? He's like, "Oh, when are we gonna?" Or we need more members or whatever. Somebody mentions it to him. I think it might have been Black Widow, and Tony's like, "What about Hulk or something?" And she's like, "Well, can we even take a guess at whose side he'd be on?" And
yeah. For sure.
If he wasn't on their side, then they'd be screwed, sort of a thing,
Well, he wouldn't want more government control because that's like he's been running for the government his whole life.
Exactly. Yeah, him under the government's thumb is dangerous. So. And
again, I think during the comics at this point, he was on Planet Hulk or doing the whole Planet Hulk thing on Sakaarn. So that's why. Man, one day I really want that because all I want is World War Hulk, Joe. I'm gonna keep talking about this until it happens.
Hey man, it'll happen. I don't think Hulk is that. It's not the last we've seen of him. I'm sure they'll expand on him some more. I mean, I don't think there's any end in sight for this Marvel universe. So
that and the fact that like they've proven that heroes fighting heroes can be really successful. That's another hero, quote unquote, fighting heroes. But Hulk would be like the villain, but it might be like from his perspective. That would be really, really cool.
Yeah.
I'm hoping for it. With Doctor Strange coming in, Illuminati. I talked about like the last time or something, but it's happening.
Yeah, you think they'll ever do any Marvel movies where it's based on a villain instead of a hero, and it's all villain perspective, and
Joe, that's
maybe
a good question.
little bit of hero involvement here and there.
The only thing I can think of is some of the Sony stuff. Like, they're really pushing for that Sinister Six movie, and obviously the
sure.
Venom movie, which is coming up.
Oh, so pumped on that. We'll save that for another podcast.
Yeah, but, Marvel Cinematic Universe-wise, I don't know. The only one I could see them doing is Loki, but the problem with that is, like, you can't really do that without Thor, and there wouldn't really be a lot, I don't think, for just him that would be compelling.
Yeah, for sure. I couldn't think of others, but,
Yeah, that's a good question,
might be
though.
an interesting thought. Maybe they'll come up with something down the road.
Yeah, here's hoping, but my goodness, was there anything else you want to say about Civil War? Last thing I want to say about it is I haven't been this excited or jazzed since the first Avengers. I walked out and I was like, oh my gosh. I was
True.
Just like,
Yeah. Right after I saw it, I think I gave you a call and I told you what my reaction was, and I literally said I think it's the best Marvel movie I've seen thus far. Even with the Avenger movies bumped in there, I think it takes a top slice for me.
Yeah, I'm probably with you too. Well, that's because it's kind of like, it is Cap 3, but it's also like Iron Man 4 and Avengers like 2.5. It's like all these movies coming together. It's just like, oh, how did they manage this? The Russo brothers, kudos to you guys. You guys are like some of the best directors I know to like juggle 20 different superheroes in a cohesive movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and also I will say, even though I wasn't a huge fan of Zemo, he's fine. But the fact that they made him kind of be so minuscule to everything, whereas I think that was one of the biggest flaws when you compare it to something like Batman vs Superman, is that Lex Luthor there was just too much of him, and he was too weird and dumb, whereas Zemo was kind of like quiet in the background, like trying to kind of get these guys to fight, where they didn't realize it was him.
Well, and it works well because he's trying to pit them against each other, so he's kind of in the background pulling the puppet strings a little bit. You don't they don't acknowledge him a lot. They show him initiating it, which is cool, the setup and everything. I think it was well done. But after that, they give the screen time to the guys that matter, and it really hits home the fact that what he did was working, pitting them against each other.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm excited. It's made me more excited to see just the Spider-Man standalone. Spider-Man Homecoming is the name of that one, which I'm really, really, it's going to be so good. And that might have been, by the way, a kind of a nod or reference in when they're saying to the Winter Soldier in Russian, they're saying all those words, and Homecoming is one of them. And that might be a nod to Spider-Man Homecoming, just for fun. And then, obviously, the Black Panther movie, which that little tease at the end, I was like, perfect. I'm glad Wakanda's not just going to be like some city out in the middle of nowhere, or just like a metropolis type of thing. It needs to be kind of secluded and kind of mysterious and foggy and cool. I was like, yes, this is what I'm talking about. So, man, those movies are going to be good. And Ant-Man, to me, kind of stole the show for a lot of those moments that he was in. I thought he was great. I was worried at first. I was like, I know he's going to be in it. We'll see how he goes. But then he did a great job. I thought everybody did a good job. Yeah. Is there anyone, like, Chris Evans is Captain America, and like Robert Downey Jr. is Tony Stark. They just can't ever like recast them.
What's going to happen if they keep moving forward with these movies in the MCU? And
I don't know, man.
These guys start to get too old, or they got to refresh the part.
Yeah, well, I know, like,
do they just go to new characters, or do we stop it and they do reboots, or?
I don't know. I think they ride it out as long as possible, because a reboot is just so much work.
Yeah,
but the thing is,
they'd have to play it off some way scientifically, like he doesn't, or we put his conscience in another body.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know what they do, but it's a tough situation. They better.
Well, with Tony Stark, you just put him in the Iron Man suit all the time, and you just have him record VO, like voiceover, and you never see him again, like on set. He's just always flying around and doing stuff. So you're like, he could do it forever. Whereas Captain America might be harder. But like our buddy Drew was saying, like in an interview, Chris Evans said, like, I'll play it as long as they let me do it. But either way, I'm excited because regardless of what happens with the MCU or even DC, if this does as well as it's been doing, this is the new format kind of for superhero films. And if they have to reboot any universe, just take this. This is your playbook, guys. Start in the beginning and be like, all right, let's test out a few movies and see how they go, but let's plan it out. Plan it way out. Like, put it all together, integrate it as much as possible, because the more integration, the better, I think. You have it. And the only complaint I had with this movie is that it really can't stand on its own. It's not supposed to, but if you just walked into this movie and you've never seen any of the other ones, you'd probably be very confused. You know,
Oh,
you'd be
that's
like,
true. Yeah,
you'd be
yeah.
like, what the heck's going on? Who are these guys? What did he just say? What are they referencing? But it's not supposed to. Everyone knows that it's not like the first movie or only movie in this universe. There are so many other movies that
Yeah.
you kind of, it's almost required viewing. I would almost say you could probably slide by just seeing maybe like the first two Captain America movies and like Iron Man, and then you'd be like, all right, you know, I kind of get the gist of the two main forces in here, but these other people are kind of new players to me.
Yeah.
But the Avengers, I feel like, are also semi-required viewing.
They are, yeah. I
So-
was thinking the same thing. I mean, think about it. I mean, the people that are going to go see this movie, I mean, it would be stupid to assume that the people seeing this haven't seen those prior.
Yeah.
Those movies, they got so much exposure, made so much money. They know that the general population has seen those movies one way or another. So, yeah, it's a safe bet, you know, making a movie that kind of relies on that build-up information from prior movies. So, yeah, it worked well. I guess, you know, to recap it, I guess we've said nothing but good things about it. And I know, Jimmy, in your initial review, spoiler-free review, you gave it a solid 9 out of 10. Am I right?
You're not supposed to tell people, Joe. They got to go see it.
Oh, I mean, you gave it a question mark out of 10. But
Yeah.
in all honesty, I think it's very deserving of that mark, and I'd probably give it a good 9 out of 10 as well. I always got to leave a little bit of room for improvement, but you know, and I've said it in other films. This being a critical reviews podcast, are there any dull points that we can pick out? Things that bugged us? Anything that they could have done better, etc. Do you have anything on the top of your mind, Jimmy?
It's one really, really minuscule, microscopic complaint. But Scarlet Witch, and I know I think it might be kind of comic accurate, but her movements and stuff when she's doing her abilities always feel fake to me. Like, they don't feel natural in any way, and maybe they're not supposed to, but when she's doing stuff, it feels like there's no, you know, power behind it, or she doesn't really feel like she's actually doing it. And she's not selling it to me. I feel like she's just doing these crazy, like, little hand gestures, and she's like, and I'm just like, I hope they do better with Doctor Strange. Okay. You know what I mean? You know, I feel like it's such a tiny complaint, but I feel like it doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem fluid. It doesn't seem, like, powerful, graceful. Like, I want her to do, like, kind of the one swipe she does in Ultron where it kind of blows 4 or 5, you know, robots away. More of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And she still seems, maybe it's because she's still kind of a greenhorn to the whole thing. But besides that, man, I don't know. It's like I said before, it doesn't stand on its own, which is just the only problem with it. And maybe some of the hand-to-hand fight scenes with, like, Agent 13 only slightly, but Black Widow, I want them to spice it up a little. Because I gotta stop seeing these grapples. I see everyone do these grapples. It's like, give her something else to do to these bad guys, please. She's Black Widow, for goodness sakes.
Yeah,
but that
give
whole
her
scene,
some cooler gadgetry or something. I know she had that stun gun on her wrist or whatever, the wrist bracelet, but you know, give her some more tech to, you know, really mix it up with some of these guys. I think that'd be cool. But I get it, she's more of a hand-to-hand combat, you know, assassin type. But yeah. Anyway. Continue.
I also liked when she got caught in the APC and he like crossbones through a grenade in there or whatever. I was like, how's she gonna get out of this one? And I thought that was actually like a really good moment where I was like, wow, she's gonna die here. And then I was like, she's not gonna die. But
that was crazy. She used that guy as a shield and he took all the shrapnel from it. But
yeah, and the last thing I'll touch on as far as a very, very tiny complaint is what you said before. Let's work on the texture on Spider-Man's suit. It looks kind of weird right now. It looks like just like really, it almost looks too silky.
Yeah.
Like it.
You know, and as we've been talking, I was thinking about my gripes with the movie, and as I said just a minute ago, this movie probably tops it for Marvel for me, even against the Avengers movies. I just, there's something about it, the intimacy of the fighting, etc. It's not on such a big scale that it's hard to follow. I really like that it's intimate and the things occurring really just. Feast for the senses, my man. I liked it, but things to pick out. You mentioned the spider suits. That was one of my gripes. Not a huge one by any means, hence why I give it a 9 out of 10. But I'd like to see the texture like from the Sam Raimi films. But another part of me is thinking, okay, well, they just introduced him. Stark had like what, all of an hour to figure out a suit for him and give him some help and tech and whatnot for his eyes and all that. I don't know. I think they're going to develop it further, and maybe when he comes back, he's going to have something even sweeter. Am I right?
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, and it's standalone for sure.
So yeah, I get maybe it's like a build up to his actual, more formal suit that you're gonna, familiarize yourself with. So maybe that's the approach they're taking, which I can understand that. More to build up and shock the crowd with. But that's well, sorry, I should let you finish. Do you have anything else or?
Nope, I think that's it. Everything else is great. I don't think I'd change a thing.
Yeah, I really don't think I would either.
Nailed it. I don't know how they did it. I was trying to think of like someone gave us that like all those elements and said like, all right, here's basically like the bare bones plot of the scripts and everything, and what do you want to do with it, guys? I'd be like, I don't even know where to start.
I feel like the villain. Throw out the name again, Jimmy.
Oh, Zemo.
Yeah, I feel like the villain. He was good. He was intimate. Got in there and he posed as a psychiatrist and all that, but I feel like his motivations needed to be bigger, and I feel like, sure, his family died in Sokovia. All right, yeah, so did a lot of people's, and I mean, I don't know. I guess he had the means and knowledge to go about this, but man, what an undertaking!
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. I would have liked to have seen a bit of a bigger wow factor of why he was doing it and that sort of thing, but I'm not sure how I would have done it differently. I wish I had some ideas there, but I wasn't overly impressed by his reasoning for doing what he was doing. But
yeah,
it's all right.
I'm glad they didn't take away from the heroes to do it though, because they could have definitely made like a more sinister or powerful villain into the mix, and
exactly, and then would have stole the spotlight, which is what they did not want to happen here. So part of me understands it, a part of me wanted a little more, but I'm all right with it. So hence why I give it the 9 out of 10. There aren't many complaints here, and definitely worth a watch in theaters. And when I say worth a watch in theaters, I mean you are very much so missing out if you just wait for it to come out on DVD, unless you got some sort of home theater system. You best go watch this in theaters. It's fun to watch with an audience and listen. Everybody gets a laugh in, and the sound. Ooh, the sounds are so good.
My theater wasn't that good on sound. I'm gonna go try to see it in an IMAX and try to I'll be like blown away. Like,
it was funny, Jimmy, because in my town here, I've never been to the movie theater here. I always travel up to a larger town north of me, but I went here and I didn't expect much because I walk into the lobby and it's kind of like a little older, a little more. Like it was retrofitted to be a movie theater. Then I walk into the theater. It's nice, really nice seats. Multi-tiered, real steep, and the screen was a lot larger than I thought it'd be. So I was pleased with it, and the sound quality was even really well done. So the experience was great. So anyone out there who hasn't seen it yet and you've listened to this whole thing, sorry for all the spoilers, but it's your own fault. Go see the movie. Go see it twice if you have seen it.
Yeah, this is one of those movies where this is why you go to the movie theater. This is one of those movies.
It's only been 2 days for me, and I feel like I want to go see it again already, just to pick out some more information and just to get the overall experience again. I loved it.
Yep, I gotta go back. It's one of those movies where I thought with Star Wars, I was like, I'll probably see like 2 or 3, 4 times. I only saw it once.
For those Star Wars fans. How about Spider-Man's reference? What's that old movie with the big walking things? The Star Wars where that was great. He dated all the Avengers. They're all like, man, how old is this guy?
Tony's like, I didn't carbon date the kid.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Oh, that was great. So good.
And here I'm the nerd in the theater thinking, I just want to scream, it's an at you fools. Like,
yeah. I'm not a big Star Wars fan by any means, but I knew what he was talking about.
Yeah, that was great. And it's such a great way to marry the two things. It's like, that's Disney's way and Marvel's way of being like, yep, Star Wars, we're one thing.
Yeah, that was cool.
Let's kick it.
You're right.
Good on you. Oh my gosh, so
Jimmy,
good.
I also want to point out that was well said when you talked about how Captain America and Spider-Man have a lot in common. Not only are they both from New York City, but they also both started out from a position of being that scrawny kid that was underestimated. and now they're, you know, two of the most powerful people out there and leaders, smart, setting an example. That was well said, man.
Thanks,
They
man.
do have a lot in common. And I wanted to ask you, I don't know if you stuck around for the little teaser trailer at the end.
Oh, you
the
know I
bonus
did.
scene. I didn't because my girlfriend wasn't feeling well, so we left. You know, bummer. I was sad. She felt bad, so we got out of there. But I want your feedback on that. Describe it to me. What happened? What I miss?
So basically, you saw the one where they're in Wakanda, though, right? The one at the end.
Nope.
You didn't see that one either?
No.
Oh my goodness. Oh, Joe. Okay. There's two different things. First off, at the very end, or sorry, after those first initial credits, we shoot to Bucky, who's like laying on this thing, and he's talking to, I think it's Black Panther in the shot, and he says, "I think it's the best thing for me," or Captain America, I think he says, like, to put me back under, and he's like, "Are you sure about this?" Like, yeah. So they put him back under, and you just see him go in this tube, and he goes to sleep. He doesn't have his arm or anything, and then you see kind of, you know, Cap talking to Black Panther. And he says, "Thank you so much for doing this for me." And he's like, "You know, if they find out he's here, they'll come for you." And then he said, like, you know, Black Panther said something to the effect, like, "Let them try." And then they shoot out over this really foggy, cool jungle area. And the last thing you see is this sick-looking panther statue that's, like, got this mouth wide open. And it's like, oh my gosh, Wakanda. Do not mess with Wakanda, man. This place is so cool. It's
really?
like, oh, yeah. And they're just like, they're a technological powerhouse. Everything looks like futuristic-y, like inside the place, but when you shoot outside, it's just like really old school, just like tribal kind of like, oh man, really cool.
Well,
and then
now I need to go back and see it again.
Gotta see it again.
Dang
and then at the very, very end, there's Peter Parker sitting in his on his bed in his room, and Aunt May
I heard about this one.
Aunt May comes in, and he's kind of like trying to hide something from her, and you can see that he's still hurt from his interactions during the airport fight.
Let me finish it. Who are you fighting, Peter? Some guy named Steve from Brooklyn. Am I right?
Exactly. Yep.
Yes.
Did you guess that, or did you hear that?
Total guess.
Nice. And he also said, and there's like, and he had this like really, really big guy with him, like he was huge. And I was like, oh, that's a nice little giant man nod right there. But then at the very end, he's like, oh, can you shut the door on the way out? She leaves, and then he kind of is showing his I think one of his web shooters on the ceiling. This used to be on his belt in the comics and stuff, but it's like his little Spider-Man kind of almost bat symbol.
Yeah, this
and he
is
used
the
to
part
shine.
I did hear about. Yeah.
Yeah, he used to shine this a lot to kind of scare villains or kind of freak them out before he would fight them. And that's about it. And at the very end, it said Spider-Man will return. So that felt very much like, I kind of wish they would have put what they usually do, which is like Captain America will return, you know, because I'm like, it's Cap's movie, but people want to know Spider-Man's going to come back into the fold. But yeah, man, you got to see at least that. The one with Wakanda, that's what I was talking about before. Like, they show a little bit of it, and I'm like, here we go. I was like, Wakanda.
I'd like to see that.
Yeah, I'm so stoked on Black Panther. So cool. Like, he's so cool.
Yes,
oh man,
I want that suit.
Oh, that's
right away. We walked out, and Haley, my girlfriend, she had a headache, but she could tell that when we were watching. She's like, I bet you Joe's like just salivating over that suit. He probably thinks that character's awesome. She was right. I thought Black Panther was awesome, but still, favorite Winter Soldier. I just find that guy awesome. I like that he's soft spoken, doesn't talk a lot. He's just kind of that brooding, you know, mysterious guy, badass, extremely capable and tactical.
Still has his funny moments though, where he's like sitting in the car with Falcon, and he's like,
oh
in the
yeah,
backseat,
yeah.
and he's
Can
like,
you
could
move your seat up?
And Falcon's like,
great.
nope. They should have like a buddy cop movie or something. Those two together were so good.
Yeah.
You know what I miss though on Winter Soldier? I love his mask, and I get that he doesn't always want to wear it, but it would have been cool if at one point Iron Man would have shot like some sort of smoke grenades, and then he would have put the mask on for that, and he would have just kept it on, because I feel like that really makes him a menace. Like when you see him with that on, you're like, oh my gosh, like that guy's gonna kill us all.
Gives him that ominous factor. But is there any functionality to the mask? Why did he wear it? Just to protect his identity, or?
I think it was that, and the fact that he, you know, so no one would figure out who he was, because it's not for his identity, it's for, you know, people who are using him. But I think it's kind of like a gas mask as well, because in a lot of situations he goes and there's like smoke and gas and other things that he doesn't want to necessarily inhale. So I think that's one of the reasons why. So yeah, I love that mask and the goggles he used to have with it. Oh my gosh! And Winter Soldier, he's just like a one-man wrecking crew. But
yes, sir. Took out
yes.
all those police, that entire police force in that apartment.
Yeah. Joe likes so Joe's going with Winter Soldier. Oh my gosh, I'm still gonna probably say Cap for this one. I just love Cap. He's so cool. He's like everything I want to be. Like he's just like a good guy. He's fighting for like civil liberties. He doesn't want to go and end up working for another corrupt governing body.
Yeah,
because they always are. So and he does some really cool stuff. I love Cap.
Yeah, can you quote him? I forget what he says. He says, I feel that our decisions are still best kept with us, or something like that.
Yeah, he says, like, the best hands are still our hands.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's so true, because, if anyone
Yeah,
else
because
were to
if somebody else is in control of them, a government, I think they even say this. He's like, other people have their own agendas, and we should not contribute to that. We are here for the good of the people, etc. We're not to be used by, one municipality or whatever. Yeah. So, yeah, well done. Man, the whole thing worked well. The storyline, the plot, etc. Characters. Oh man, it was a feast for the senses.
Yes, exactly. Well, that's our stuff on Civil War. We're gonna slip into this last little segment pretty quick because we've been going for quite a while, which I figured we would, which is a good thing. But we're gonna slip into Time Killers. Time Killers. We're gonna talk about what we've been playing, what we've been watching, all that good stuff. Joe, what have you been? What's the thing? What's the one thing on your mind right now? What's the one thing you've been? That's leading.
I'm pretty sure you can guess, Jimmy, but you have got me hooked on this game, and I know you've been, shouting it out a lot, and you've been doing a lot of Twitch streams on it when we've been playing together. But Overwatch, the beta we've been playing, all I can think about is that game lately. It's been a blast to play with you and Drew and other friends, but. Great game. Everybody should go check it out. I know the actual game is releasing, May 20-something?
24th, I think.
24th, yeah. So I've been having a blast playing that. I know hopefully you and I, after this podcast, we can get a chance to bro down and play a little bit of that to unwind. But, that's... there was something else I wanted to bring up, and I totally forgot what it was.
That's okay. If you think about it, I could talk for a minute if you...
Yeah, what do you got for Time Killers, my man?
Well, obviously Overwatch. I've been talking about that forever. It's so great. I'm so excited for it. But within that week coming up after it, we also have X-Men Apocalypse. That week's kind of big.
Oh, that's one of the things I wanted to bring up. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so excited for that, and I think the week after that, Joe, we can do another one of these type of things where we kind of dedicate, because there's going to be a lot in that movie too. Where I wish they were combined, like eventually, like X-Men with the MCU, but.
Hey,
we'll see if we
all I
there.
can say is Olivia Munn. Yeah. Yes. I'm all about it. Sure, she's gorgeous and whatnot, but I like that she's in this movie, and I like her character. I think her character seems awesome. Just saying, the character is appealing to me, and not because she's got like a painted on suit or anything like that. I mean, that's a bonus, but
well, do you know any of
like
Psylocke's powers?
No, not really. I don't know much about him at all. So.
That's okay. All I know is that there's a potential to see Hugh Jackman. That's all I care about.
That'd be nice. Yeah,
always
sure.
that potential.
There's
potential that he was in a trailer, but that's yeah.
That and then what else? I've been following on some news lately. It's been a slow news week the past week, but I know they just released the looks of the new Power Rangers for the new reboot coming out. They look pretty cool. The suits look awesome. I mean, they've come a long way, and with the new technology available to filmmakers, they've done a good job with them. I encourage everybody to check them out. I mean, this is more of a boy thing. I don't know, maybe a girl thing too. They've got the girl Power Rangers in there, yellow and pink and all that, but I know as a young boy growing up, I mean, come on, who didn't turn on the Saturday tunes and Power Rangers was on, I mean, yeah, Mighty Morphin, right?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how those go. I'm interested to talk to you about those when we get like a trailer and
yeah, not too much out there on them. I just saw the sneak peek of what they'll look like, and I thought, well, okay, pretty cool looking. So we'll see. More to come on that, but
definitely. Well, thank you so much, Joe, for talking to me about probably the best Marvel movie I've seen ever.
Same for me, man.
We talk about it for another hour or two, but we won't. But, thank you everybody for watching. Please leave us your questions, about Civil War or about anything else related to Marvel or anything else we talk about.
Yeah, we want your comments.
We want your feedback. We want it so badly. And feel free to, like, if you like this. If you don't like this, you can thumbs down it. That's why that's there too. Subscribe to the channel. Check out our other YouTube things. Share it with your friends. It was Mother's Day recently. Share it with your mom. Maybe not her. But, you can find me at GoCritical on Twitter. And also on Instagram and the same thing. And, Joe, where can people find you?
Well, Twitter, I know we're real active on there, so I'm at leverj_627, and that's lever just like beaver, only with an L. Easiest way to explain that. You can't misspell it now. And then Instagram, I'm active on there a lot, sharing stuff from Jimmy, from his Critical Reviews page. That's at leverj627, no underscore. So yeah, check us out, social networking. We like to share a lot of good stuff. And Jimmy, I know you probably put it all in the description there, but you Twitch a lot too, and we're always,
I was just gonna say that.
Always on there together. So check us out.
Yeah, most weeknights.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like Jimmy_good. I think it's linked to the thing, so you can.
We have some fun moments there, I would say. Am I right?
Yeah, we have a good time. It's it's a lot of it's just me just yelling, and then each of them, the other guys we play with, Joe included, I'll be like, oh dang, my headset was on mute. And I'm like, I've been yelling at you for 5 minutes. Like, what's going on? Like, I thought you were dead. But thank you guys so much. And next week, I don't know what we're gonna talk about next week. It could be anything at this point, but we'll see if there's any news that pops up. Or heck, we might even do like a special standalone. I know we've talked about doing like a Lord of the Rings one, Jurassic Park eventually, maybe dive into Alien, Predator stuff. We could do
Alien, one of my favorite movies ever.
Which they just had Alien Day recently, Joe. Apparently it's like a...
Yeah, dude, I dressed up. I went to work in my alien suit. Cosplay,
oh, yeah,
man.
Your Xenomorph suit,
Yeah.
I saw a funny Mother's Day card where it was
freaked out the boss.
It's like a dead guy laying sprawled out over a table, and that's the little baby Xenomorph popping out of the guy's chest with a little card, and it's showing it to like a full-grown Xenomorph who's just like really happy and has like a little apron on. It's like
oh, so freaky, man. Oh, face huggers.
No
like
thanks.
giant spiders.
Yeah. Anyway, now I'm not gonna sleep tonight. Thanks again, everybody, so much, and we'll see you next time. You guys everybody take care.
Peace out, peeps.
Yep. Bye-bye.